So, the 2024 report for Stellantis is in, and to the shock of no one, it's awful. Profits down 70%. 70%, according to their own report. Revenue was down 17%, we know sales were down 15%, cash flow was in the negative, and of course their stock was down by 46% the past 12 months. And like I said, it was not surprising. I don't think I see any article or YouTube video reporting this as anything shocking, even for clickbait purposes. So it was expected and quite frankly, well deserved. In fact, one could make the argument Stellantis deserved much worse numbers if we're being honest. And to my understanding, these are for their North American brands. Their worldwide numbers were even worse. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Appreciate you guys tuning in and listening as always. So let's make this very clear. Most people who follow any news in the auto sector are not going to be surprised by these numbers. Stellantis was in the auto news headlines for most of 2024, and it was for all the wrong reasons. And their struggles and decline were out in the open. A former CEO now, Carlos Tavares, they openly admitted they weren't going to extend his contract beyond 2026. So his contract was set to expire. And they were already publicly looking for his successor, or let's just be honest, his replacement. And despite all of that, they still asked him to resign. Guys, they're still looking for a new CEO. The former CEO was so awful, they preferred to have the position vacant instead of keeping him until they found his replacement. Even as a lame duck, he turned Stellantis to be representatives of everything wrong with the auto industry. Going back to the pandemic shortages, we all knew every automaker was taking advantage of customers, jacking up prices, producing expensive trims, but Stellantis and their dealerships took it to another level. They raised prices more than anyone else, depending on the source as high as 50% increases on their vehicles. On top of that, they were cost-cutting left and right, so you had lower quality vehicles. They were getting rid of cheaper options, bringing in expensive units no one asked for, like the EV Hornet and the Wagoneer, the whole 9 yards. And of course they got away with it because customers had very little options at the time. Now, as the pandemic shortages started to subside, Stellantis still insisted on higher prices, and their former CEO, Carlos Tavares, apparently wanted to justify keeping these prices by trying to reinvent the perception of Stellantis brands like Jeep and Ram into more luxury or high-end brands, which was preposterous in and of itself. But it's even crazier when you think about the fact that CEO Tavares was actively bragging about how he was making cuts on the production of these same vehicles that he was trying to brand as luxury, cutting workers, using cheaper materials, shutting down plants. Imagine the CEO of a luxury company like BMW or Mercedes bragging about how he was cutting the cost of the production of his vehicles, talking about how, he's using fewer workers and cheaper materials to build these BMWs or Mercedes. It's absurd, but this is what CEO Tavares was trying to pull off, raising prices like a luxury company while cutting costs like a budget brand. It's insane, but this is what this clown was trying to achieve. Anyways, Stellantis last year was doing awful through most of it. By August of 2024, Ram had about 150 days of supply, Jeep had 129 days of supply. One of their biggest dealerships at one point, US Stellantis national dealer, had a meeting with the CEO, and apparently the meeting went so poorly that they resorted to calling him out publicly, talking about how he was leading the company into a disaster. And I think the same thing happened too with the auto union workers. Now, later on, the former CEO did admit that he had an arrogant attitude and was in complete denial about how bad things were. And yes, this was an actual quote from him. And no, I'm not exaggerating this. His actual quote was, "When I say we were arrogant, I am talking about myself, nobody else. I am talking about the fact that I should have acted immediately." End of quote. I mean, he was as awful a CEO as one can imagine. And ultimately, the company paid the price for having him as long as they did. Now, by the time he was let go, the damage was already done, and they were already trying to fix the bad situation he put them in. Now, should we believe their statement about having a turnaround? The report says that 2025 has a positive financial guidance and that there's going to be better net revenue growth, mid-single digits, AOI margin, and positive industrial cash flow. I'll be honest, I think they have nowhere to go but up. Their management under CEO Tavares was so atrocious, their pricing was so completely out of whack, and of course their inventory level did not make sense given what they were charging, that any modicum of common sense will start leading them in the right direction. You also have to keep in mind that the brunt of their bad management was paid for by their dealerships, who are still stuck with tons of 2024 inventory. In fact, I'd be curious to see how many Stellantis dealerships lost money last year. That I think would make an interesting report, because I'm thinking their dealerships ate a lot of the losses for 2024. But anyways, now with Tavares gone, they're getting help with rebates and incentive from Stellantis, so these dealerships are starting to move metal. It looks like the inventory glut issue is getting better. Now, don't get it twisted, it's still bad from what I've observed. It's about 130 days supply for both Jeep and Ram. Keep in mind, the industry average is about 96. but at least it's going in the right direction. Overall, it seems like they've been going away from this delusion that they're a semi-luxury brand. Will that be enough to get them through this year with some better numbers? I can see that. In the short term, I can see them slowly doing better. Long term, I'm not sure. Their vehicles are still overpriced. They're having quality and recall issues left and right, and I'm not a believer in their current lineup. I just don't think this is it as far as what customers want from them. But then again, if the quality and the price are out of whack, no lineup is going to work. So to be quite frank, I honestly think that the North American brands would be better off if Stellantis sold them. I could be wrong. I mean, if they do find the right CEO, who knows? But as it stands now, Stellantis is just a big headache for brands like Jeep, Dodge, Chrysler, and Ram. But let me know what you guys think. Can they turn things around? What do you think of the forecast for 2024? Let me know in the comment section below. And as always, if you like this video, make sure to click like and subscribe. See you in the next one.